साजिश करने में जुटे हैं।
Tensions have been simmering in Sambhal, the Uttar Pradesh district, where ever since the first court ordered survey of the Shahi Jama Masjid was carried out on 19th of November following claims that a Harihar Temple previously stood at the mosque site. The Supreme Court asked the Sambhal trial court not to proceed in the suit against the Shahi Jama Masjid at Chandosi till the petition filed by the Masjid Committee against the survey order is listed in the Allahabad High Court. The court also directed that the report of the Advocate Commissioner should be kept in a sealed cover. The Supreme Court urged maintaining peace and harmony in the district. I'm going to start my conversation. Athar Zia, I want to hear it from you with regards to a point that I had highlighted just a couple of days ago when I was having a discussion on the very same subject. There seems to be some sagacity with which the Supreme Court has approached this subject. The fact that the questionable order that had been given by the trial court that caused ripples in the communally sensitive area of Sambhal, that led to rioting, that led to the death of 4 people. It has been judicious and timely action that has been taken by the Supreme Court, stopping the survey to be conducted of the Shahi Jama Masjid. Do you think in hindsight the trial court could have been more sensible and more attuned to the demographics and the cultural fabric of the region before issuing that order?
Yeah, Megha, actually the trial court should have been very sensitive to the constitution and to the law, which is very evident that 1991 Worship Act has clearly categorically said that there can't be alteration in any worship place which existed as on 15th August 1947. First. Second, you can imagine the kind of fear, the kind of stress and the kind of upheaval in a particular community when that kind of survey takes place on a worship place which is existing 250 years back, and there was no dispute, there was no, any iota of any controversy in that. Despite that, just somebody if files a application for a survey on a pretext of certain historical unreliable facts, and the trial court, which is a judicious body, takes such an action, it is quite disappointing and it is very, very saddening. As far as Supreme Court judgment today, it is very pragmatic and very, sensible in the sense that the judgment has taken care of the sentiments of the people as well as the reality as well as the law which right now exists. So, because India is a very human and very judicious and fair country, a progressive country where chaos and these kind of, law and order problems and disorder and upheaval should not be encouraged and should not be, at all supported. So I think the government currently does not want to go in these kind of things, in those kinds of controversies, and they want a harmony, and they don't want these kind of things. But certain elements, the right-wing people supported by sometimes some biased judiciary or biased bureaucracy, it creates lot of issues.
Okay.
The system
I have
has
with
to
me
take
Kailash
place.
Vasudev, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court. Advocate Vasudev, when I was speaking to a few lawyers a couple of days ago about the same issue, they spoke about how you cannot interfere in the course of how a proceeding takes place in the court of law. There are these arguments that have been posed in front of the court of law. As per the legal acts, as per the sections, it becomes imperative for the court, for the judges to pass an order such as the one that was passed by the trial court that said that a survey needs to be conducted at this controversial site. Do you think the courts, the judges have this liberty to take a look at the overall picture, notwithstanding the laws and the sections and the articles that they have to follow in what has been written in the law books, but take a look, the larger perspective, that this could be detrimental to the peace and the security and the harmony of the region, and therefore there needs to be a stand, a morally responsible stand that becomes the duty of the judge?
Good evening. In any matter which comes to court, there are two sides. One will support the order, one will oppose the jurisdiction. In this case, it's my personal view, the Places of Worship Act of 1971 precludes the jurisdiction of a court to go into any dispute which may be raised with regard to a property which is prior to 1947 used by a particular religious denomination. We must learn, apart from the political ethos of what our personal thinkings are, that the judiciary per se normally does not seek to invite unnecessary criticism, but it invokes its jurisdiction for the purpose of deciding a dispute. In this case, the judge could have easily said, this is not a matter to be gone into, close the case, because it is contrary to the provisions of the Act. He could have gone one step further by saying, I am not appointing a commission, I will hear this suit on its maintainability and otherwise, and then take a call. Passing orders of this kind very often ignites passions, and this is precisely what has happened. You will see the Gyanvapi judgment, which is the order which has been passed by the Chief Justice Chandrachud, saying that a survey may go on, a survey report will be kept in confidence, etc., etc. Now, the Gyanvapi mosque has also been a matter as old as the Babri Masjid. The Babri Masjid dispute was settled eventually in 2020 odd by a bench of 5 judges. It took a decision to put an end to a controversy. So now there are two aspects to this whole thing. An old pending controversy was put to an end with regard to the Babri Masjid issue. Here we are sparking a new direction, because if you've done it with regard to Sambhal, you're going to do it to the other parts of the country.
Right.
If you do it to the other parts of the country, that secular fabric which we so strongly cherish and try to protect will suddenly start getting into tatters. We've got to learn as a people also that somewhere, someplace we have to draw a line. Which structure is permanent? I'll give you a small example in Delhi itself. We have the old fort. The old fort consists of 7 cities, starting from Indraprasth and moving up. Do we say pull down the old fort for the purposes of restoring it to a particular situation? It's a historical monument. It has its histories. It has its situations. It has been a place of great pride for the nation. You've had, during the 1947 partition, all the migrants and the refugees were protected and kept inside the old fort and Kotla Mubarakpur in Delhi. So you see, don't look at it from the point of view of what we're demanding today in a ethos which is becoming suddenly ignited. The court also must look at it that these matters should not be encouraged and should be put an end to, especially in view of the provisions of the Public Worship Act of 1970.
Right, sir.
1981. It's
Right.
a specific act. Prior to 1947, please don't come to court. And if you try and change the direction on the use of the property, we are entitled to seek relief. But here there is nobody changing. We are saying, no, this is a part of the Hindu ethos and therefore have an investigation.
Okay.
Certain
Okay.
respect,
All right, sir. Yeah.
would be better.
I'll come back to you, sir, and I'll ask you, another question succeeding this, but let me also get in other panelists into the discussion. Sumit Peer on the telecast with me. Sumit, do you think the Babri Masjid Ayodhya Temple dispute that was resolved in the Supreme Court has opened a Pandora's box?
Ji, thank you very much for having me on your show. Allow me a minute more today because it's a very important discussion and I have been talking on your channel for a couple of times on this. The place which is there, look, there is a mention in Babarnama that there was a temple. This was demolished by Babar. It's in Babarnama itself. The point number one. If you look at the disputed structure, you can see the avsheshas or the remains of the temple. That's point number two. And point number three, in Places of Worship Act, there's a clear provision. Before 1991, when the act came into place, the nature of the place since the inception has changed. It can be subject to survey. That's why Gyanvapi survey was allowed. That is why even the High Court, Sessions Court and the Honorable Supreme Court said, yes, the survey is legal. Even Justice Chandrachud approved the survey. Haan, survey ho sakta hai. So that's the point. So there is a due precedence. There is a process by which it has happened and has gone through the scrutiny of the time. Now, if you look at this thing, what is unfortunate today is, I'll tell you a simple example. You know, we all love the Supreme Court. We'll go by what the Supreme Court says. There's no point on discussion on that. But is it that the street power or the demography of a Muslim community will determine the law of the land? Is it that how many stones can I pelt and how much of ruckus can I cause on the roads that will determine the law and order? Then how come in an 85% Hindu-dominated country, your Babri Masjid dispute going on 500 years? 85% is then the demography says it's Hindu sensitive now. Then why are you staying on the cases for 500 years? You could have said Hindu centric hai, fatavat kar do. In a 77% Muslim dominated Sambhal, you cannot do a survey because Muslims will come to the road and pelt stones, so it becomes a law and order situation. In the same breath, in a Hindu-dominated Maharashtra, in a Hindu-dominated Mumbai, Siddhi Vinayak becomes a Waqf property. Aaj November 2024 की बात कर रहा हूँ. It's a Waqf property. 2 days back, a university BHU or somebody has become a Waqf property. Mukesh Ambani's house is a Waqf property. Calcutta High Court is a Waqf property. Calcutta's assembly where it is a Waqf property. Because Hindus are law-abiding citizens, they don't they don't come to roads and pelt stones. So there's no law and order problem. There's no law and order problem. No court will intervene. If no court will intervene, so your rights will be trampled.
But then, Sumit, the question over here is, number one, are we going to keep digging all the mosques in the country to then probe into the matter that yes, there was a temple that was destroyed and on the ruins of which there was a mosque that had been erected, and there are going to be hundreds and hundreds of them across North India. I'm saying, where is the buck going to stop? And also talking about what is the intent of the Hindu side to put out that petition, file a petition, they are the plaintiffs, and then arguing in the court of law that listen, we want a survey. If it is just for the purpose of keeping records and putting it out on history is one thing, but if the purpose and the intent is to then further file a petition and ask for the mosques to be destroyed, desecrated, and then a temple be built on it is something that is controversial and in all circumstances not be allowed to be done.
You see, Megha ji, point here is
I'll
very
come
simple.
to you. Yes, let him answer.
Point here is very simple. Look, you cannot go and dig under every mosque and try to fight the Shivling, what Adarni Mohan Bhagwat ji said. But jahan dikh raha hai, he said, don't go and look under every mosque. But if you look at Gyanvapi, it's visible. If you look at Mathura, it's visible. If you look at in Sambhal mosque, it is visible. If you look at Gyanvapi, it is visible because the invader.
But I don't understand. You're telling me the other day we were discussing and you said that there are these important places across the country. You spoke about the Gyanvapi mosque. You spoke about Krishna Janmabhoomi. You've spoken about Ayodhya. How Correct. Many? And then you said after this point, we are in agreement that there may be a number of temples that may have been destroyed and mosques that would have been erected in their place is something that we are going to be in agreement and decide not to file petitions and not urge the law and authority, the courts, the governments to bring them down. But that's what I'm saying. Where does the buck stop? Now you're telling me that even over here at the Shahi Jama Masjid, there are indications, there is proof that there is a temple. Even if it was, and in all probability, there will be evidence that it is known that the mosque is built on the ruins of a temple. But what are you going to do? Are you going to now destroy the mosque?
No, that is for the honorable courts to decide. We are not saying what is to be done, what is not to be done. Look, When
that's what I'm saying. The
Muslim-
intent
when Muslim
of
Paksh
a
was
person,
asked
of an
regarding-
organization, of a
Seriously.
body that goes to the court to demand a survey be conducted, what is the intent is something that is most important over here that needs to be focused on. Advocate Manasvi Thapar, let's hear it from you. Let's hear it from you. How do you think this issue should be resolved? Again, I said, has a Pandora's box been opened? Because we never used to witness such cases in the past. It's only after the Ayodhya verdict that has been brought forth by the Supreme Court that we see a number of these petitions being filed against a number of mosques about doing the surveys and then rebuilding the temple over there.
Megha, as you rightly said, where will the buck stop when you were talking to Sumit? I don't think with this kind of surveys being asked, the buck is going to stop anywhere. I think with this idea of places of with this idea, the Places of Worship Act does not hold any sanity, because any day anyone can come that let's have a survey and let's have a survey of an entire country. This entire country is a Hindu land. We know about it. Hinduism started from this country, and every particular inch of this particular property belongs. This country belongs to it, and it was the invaders. We'll have churches. They also came from the Britishers and the Christians when they came to our country. We have Muslims, mosques which came to our country, and they have their own religious sites, and everything was a Hindu land. So now let's have an entire survey of the 7th largest country of the world and say that this is a Hindu land. When you dig, you'll find that there would be avshesh of our ancestors which will belong to Hindus, and then there would be Buddhist sites also which will have Hindu avshesh. There would be Jain sites also which would have Hindu avsheshes. There would be Hindu avsheshes also in temple in Sikh
Gurdwaras.
Sikh religion.
Yeah.
So now Gurudwaras. Yeah. So now my main point is, where are we going? So do we need an act was made in place in 1991. That was the Places of Worship Act. What is the relevance of that act now in 2024? I feel that act is of no importance to this country now. So we can have an entire survey of entire country because we don't care about that act. So either now the legal position is that either we scrap that act or we value that act, or we create amendments wherein it will be suitable for people who are in politics in large numbers, and they want to have surveys by surveys. What is the outcome? There could be only two outcomes. Either there would be destruction of the mosque, or there would be no destruction of the mosque. So what is the end goal? After the survey, are we going to plan on a destruction or reconstruction of a temple on that particular mosque or not? That's a relevant question. Where is the end goal going to go for those people who have filed this petition? Where are we heading forward?
Yeah.
At one particular place, we want India to be a scientific nation. At other particular place, we want surveys by survey, wherein we want our youth to be busy in doing surveys on all the mosques of our country. What is happening?
Yeah.
It is a political mileage game.
Can I make one
Athas,
point?
yes, you want to make a point.
Megha,
Yeah.
this is my chance.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Yeah, you see, first of all, I will request Sumit that let's debate as Indian and as a human, not as Hindu Muslim, always. The second thing is that now a survey has been demanded, an application has been placed for Ajmer Sharif survey as well. So what is the purpose? What is as my previous friend has said, what is the purpose of these surveys when you can't change the basic position of any worship place which existed in 1947, 15th August? Then why these surveys are required at all if we value that 1991 Worship Act? So that is what I am saying. Instead of vitiating the atmosphere, instead of let's have a system, a basic law and order where fairness and equality, take place, and that culture take place.
Okay. All right.
I want to
Quickly.
comment here for a minute.
Yes. Please go ahead, sir.
May I comment for a minute?
Yeah.
This business which we are now inculcating in our system, the Places of Worship Act is bad, the system is bad, the divide in religions is there. Please understand, we have got something like 17 religions coexisting in this country from time to time.
True.
You've got tribal rights. You've got tribal systems. Going to the northeast, it's a totally different way of life. And the constitution says we are secular. If you maintain secularism, this has to go. Don't maintain secularism, declare yourself to be a country following a particular faith, it becomes a different situation. If the Places of Worship Act is to remain, then respect it. It is a parliamentary act passed when the Babri Masjid dispute was pending. It says it will not apply to the Babri Masjid dispute because that's a pending dispute. Therefore, on the overall conspectus, you have Sikhs, you have Parsis, you have Jains, you have Buddhists, you have Hindus, you have Muslims, you have Christians, you have the Jews, you have the Syrian Christians, you have the Orthodox Christians, you have the Protestants, you've got the Armenians, you've got so many religions coexisting on this beautiful country called India. Is it our job to fragment it for the purposes of any purpose? No, it is not. Let us find answers and solutions amicably, try and work them out.
Okay.
The Supreme Court worked out the Babri Masjid problem by saying this piece of land for the Ayodhya Masjid, that piece of land for that mosque. Let us try and do something on those lines here instead of losing lives for no rhyme or reason.
Okay.
It has
Yes.
Megha,
Yes, go ahead.
Megha, the point is very simple. Look, when Ayodhya was happening, you and me were on this channel. We had appealed. You know, when Muslim Paksh was here, they said we'll go by the Supreme Court, what the Supreme Court says. Are they buzzing on this Gyanvapi? Are they buzzing off in Mathura? They say no, we'll go by the Supreme Court. Today, even today, Siddhi Vinayak Temple is a Waqf property. How many Muslims have come and traveled on your TV? This is atrocious.
But then, these are two separate subjects. And the Waqf Property Amendment Act is at this point of time in the Parliament. There are discussions being held. I'm not going to get into that. And at this point in time, there are checks and balances that are being put in place by the legislature with regards to it. So let's talk about the temples right now. Yeah.
You see, the temple is very simple. You see, it's very simple. You know, whenever it's a Hindu temple, all right, Hindus have a right as per the law to go to the court or wherever they said. Let the court decide whatever it is. When the Muslim side is not ready to buzz an inch, why should we carry the carriage of Hinduism on our shoulders and say it is because for the secularism, it's because for the peace, because for the tranquility. While there's a temple 1500 years in Tamil Nadu, that's a Waqf property, while Islam is 1400 years old. And today Siddhi Vinayak is a Waqf property. We are not talking on it. But when Hindus are just appealing for a survey, it becomes a law and order problem, it becomes a secularism problem, it becomes a Bharat ki problem. While does the 85% of the majority don't have rights? And here you are stopping us in 1947. Waqf is saying कि 300 साल पहले ये सुल्तान ने ये जमीन दी थी इसलिए हमारी. So even where is the stoppage to that?
And therefore, the amendment, the bill that is in the court is being discussed. There is going to be the bill that is tabled and discussions held, and in all likelihood going to be passed with the relevant amendments to be made. My question over here, Advocate Manasri Thakur, if you could respond, is again the harmony and peace of the country is supreme. The court, when the Supreme Court has intervened in the matter, has taken a very prudent call. Do you think the courts, at this time when you talk about the judges in the trial court, they may have been callous, irresponsible or biased towards a certain party over the other?
Megha, see, what I see is what Babur did in 15th century is something what we are doing it right now. We don't want peace and tranquility in our country. We want a constant efforts wherein there is some kind of dispute going on in the country, and we are okay with it. Now the previous panelist Sumit said that Hindu ne ye kiya, Muslimano ne ye kiya, 85% population. We are not in fear. Let's understand this. We are the largest population. Hindus are there. Hindus are not in fear. This entire facade of being that Hindu khatre mein, Hindu khatre mein nahi hai. There have been instances. There have been invaders in the country, from Britishers to Arabs to everyone who came to our country, but no one could change our religion. We are still a largest Hindu population of the world. So Hindu khatre mein nahi hai. And this entire environment is being created in a way that there is only one political party which can save Hindus. No, Hindus have been in this country since more than 10,000 years, and Hindus have been there and still are going to be there and are going to continue in the way forward. So what is happening is, in 1991, why was this particular act made was because as my senior learned friend said, that it was created because there was a Babri issue, a Ram Janmabhoomi issue, to make sure that peace and tranquility remains in our country. This is a special act. Why special act? कि एक राम जन्मभूमि का इशू हो गया, फ्यूचर में देश में और दंगे ना हो. The objective of this act was to stop riots, to prevent riots, and not to create that environment. What have happened with this particular issue of Sambhal is 11 people lost their lives. 11 people, I won't say that there are Hindus or Muslims, 11 Indians have lost their lives.
Okay.
Are we going to make sure that future Indians are not going to lose their lives because...
Okay, all right, you made your point, and on that note, I'm out of time as well, but I thank all of you for joining me on the telecast and giving your views on this very sensitive matter. I'll slip into a short break. Thanks for watching NewsX.